Well, welcome everyone to another episode of The Next Level with my esteemed marketing director of The Wedding Biz and my co-host of The Next Level, Melissa Fancy.
Hi, everyone. What a wonderful way to start out the week.
I agree. And together, Melissa and I discuss the most recent guest interview and suss out a few key topics and translate them into specific tactical strategies that you can use to bring your business to the next level. And Melissa, before we dig in, catch us all up on the latest excitement.
Oh my gosh, I'm packing for Engage this week. It's the best thing that ever happened. I can't wait. We're going to Canada. Andy, I don't know about you, but we received the emails for the breakout sessions last week, and I still can't pick. There's so many good ones on there. I want them to pick for me.
Yeah, no, it's really hard. And there's so many people who, we've heard before. And, you and I were talking earlier how still it's going to be different each time. And it's so amazing. And yeah, I'm having a hard time too. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. I want to hear every single one.
I know. At least we'll be able to hang out with them all if we aren't in their class. It's going to be wonderful. But
that's true.
We have a perfectly timed question from a listener that is actually talking about Engage as they're preparing this week. So I thought I could share that with you. I think it's just a really great question.
Oh, good. Yeah. Let's do it.
So she says, I'm heading to Engage this week and I'm a little embarrassed and feeling vulnerable. So please don't share my name, but here is my question. Hi, Andy. I absolutely love the show and how you added the new segment, The Next Level. I'm getting ready to attend Engage. It's my first time, and I'm feeling very anxious about attending as a newbie with so many seasoned wedding professionals. Even though I consider myself to, in fact, be successful, attending a conference such as this has gotten me quite jittery. Can you give me any advice to help calm me so I can be fully present and not only get as much as possible out of the educational opportunities, but also to effectively network? Andy?
Yeah, I love that question. I'm so, whoever you are who sent it, thank you for being vulnerable and sending that question in, because I think it's something that really all of us have dealt with at some time or another. And it applies not just obviously to Engage, but any kind of a conference, where you've got these educational opportunities. And at the same time, obviously, it's a chance to socialize and network and make new friends. And it really can be overwhelming, especially the first few times that you go. So I want to say when I first started to go to these kind of conferences, like strictly as an attendee, I would first at home really take the time to research the speakers ahead of time. Obviously, with the Engage one, we can all go to the website and look up the bios. And I would sit there and look at those bios ahead of time to get a better sense of who these speakers are, and not only what I might be able to learn from them, which also will inform, which ones I want to listen to, but also who I might want to meet. Because one of the advantages of a lot of these conferences, and especially Engage, it's a part of it, is that the speakers are there with us. I mean, during the breaks, and you're going to see them around the venue. And so it's not just, who do you want to hear speak, but maybe there's someone you want to approach. And that's another topic, how you approach them. You want to, be very laid back about it. But again, ahead of time, research the speakers, get a sense for who it is you want to listen to, or who you might want to meet. And then when you arrive, because that, in this particular case, that's when we get the actual detailed schedule. And so even now, in the position I'm in, I'm still going to grab that schedule and I'm going to go somewhere private, my room or somewhere else, and I'm going to really take the time to go through it and plan my time and my strategy. I mean, obviously we want to leave time for spontaneity and all of that, but I do really think ahead of time, who do I want to meet? That leads to another point too, which is I even scan through the attendees. Now, some of these conferences have 1,000 people. Engage has a few hundred. I'm still going to scan through that list too, because the networking opportunities are really incredible. And I even go as far as memorizing some of the faces, so that and names. Like I'm getting into real detail here, but it really worked for me. I'll have a sheet of paper in my pocket with certain names of who I really want to meet, and I'm kind of looking at name tags, and some of the people I really badly want to meet, I memorize their faces, what they look like, and so that's part of what helps me to feel more comfortable coming to the conference, is that I've done that work ahead of time. And also in terms of, when you do meet people, let's come back to that for a moment. There's some techniques that we can talk about for just a moment here, which is something I think we've all heard of, which is an elevator speech. What that means is that when you meet somebody, whether it's a speaker or another attendee, it's comfortable. You got to know that this is a place where it's appropriate to go up and introduce yourself. All right. So feel free to do that. You just got to trust that we're all feeling vulnerable. We're all really actually happy when someone comes up to us and talks. So in terms of the elevator speech, it's in a sentence or two, very, very brief and concise, saying like basically what you do, who you are and what you do. And you can practice this at home and come up. And I really recommend that everybody practice that. Maybe practice it with a colleague or a friend. How can you be concise with what your brand is? And then another thing to do is when you're getting business cards, there's so many tips I could give, but another piece to help make you feel comfortable there, because what do you do with all the people you do meet, right? It gets really overwhelming. And so when I get people's business cards, I don't do this in front of them, but I have a pen with me at all times. I kind of, when I have a moment, as soon as possible, I'll write on the back of the card something about them that helps remind me who they are, because you're going to end up leaving with a stack of business cards. And then actually in the room, later at night or in the morning or whatever, I'll even kind of go through the cards and kind of organize them in terms of who do I really want to stay in touch with. And so those notes on the back are really important. And Melissa, I'm sure you've been to these conferences. You've been there as a first timer, second timer. You're seasoned now. What would you suggest?
I suggest talking to every single person you make eye contact with if you can, because you never know who they are. And they might be somebody that you've never dreamed you would have an opportunity to speak with. Like, I will never forget, I was sitting in one of those golf carts at Sea Island, and I was there with a wedding planner that I idolized forever. And I just was like, oh my gosh. And she made eye contact and I was like, hi, I'm Melissa. And I got to have this great conversation with someone I never thought that I'd be able to chat with. And now I can talk to her all the time, and it's totally cool. The other thing Andy, you gave a lot of information, so you guys please go back through, listen to what he said. It's very powerful. The other thing that I would say is don't be afraid to stay out. Like, some of my most amazing conversations and connections happen like at the after parties. Like, this is not a place where you're going to sleep. Just get okay with that. Put your, autoresponder on in your email and just be there. Just enjoy and be there and talk to everybody, and wake up early, put your makeup on, and go to breakfast, because you're going to meet somebody amazing in line. That's just the way that it is. There's a certain magic to that. And I would just totally give in to that. It's great.
It's interesting, Melissa. I love everything you're saying. I'm going to give another option to this. I have a bit of a different feeling, and there's no right or wrong here. I mean, Melissa, in terms of going out at night, the after parties and all of that, and just know you're not going to sleep, that's definitely a legitimate strategy. For me, for myself, I've tried that, and for me, I need the sleep, and I am so focused. Like, I want to have time. I definitely want to socialize. However, still, I'm focusing in particular on really being present for the early morning talks, that are given. Also the breakfast, I want to come back at a reasonable hour just to take some notes from the whole day, organize myself. Otherwise, it's so overwhelming when you leave after 3-4 days. So both ways are legitimate. Mine is to actually do some of the after party a little bit, and then go to my room, make sure I get enough sleep. So either one, I think this is really a personal, subjective issue, what works best for you. So I'm going to move on to today's guest, and that person is Tara Dowburd, founder of Makeup Therapy out of Los Angeles. That's where I met with her, where her beauty team specializes in makeup application and hairstyling for celebrity and high-end weddings, the red carpet, TV appearances, special events, photo shoots. And if you haven't already listened to the entire episode, I urge you to do that. There is so much to get out of it. And Melissa and I are about to take out some of the key topics, but I do urge you to go back and be sure to listen all the way to the end, because at the end, she talks about what her favorite products are. Really something you don't want to miss. Melissa, what was one of the topics that really stood out to you that people should really be aware of?
Oh, she had so many lessons, but the first one I think that's really important that we can all learn from is being aware of how your role on the wedding day is going to affect the other wedding professionals and their abilities to provide success for your clients, right?
Can you be more specific what you mean by that?
Sure. So when she talks about her goal to help her clients feel the most beautiful and confident on the wedding day and how that affects photography is so powerful. if you're a hair and makeup artist or really any other, friender, really, really understand how your role and what you're doing for the client fits into that sort of puzzle piece of the day. So, for example, there was a bride who hired a bunch of my friends. And, she hired my friend that was a photographer, my friend that was hair and makeup, etc. And in her hair and makeup trial, she was not honest with the hair and makeup artist. And she, in fact, hated her hair and makeup, but she just went with it. So on the wedding day, the hair and makeup team shows up. They execute the same thing that they had done in the trial. Again, not knowing that she didn't like it. She just was, fine and dandy, went on her way, but she didn't like it. And so now she's got these amazing photos of this beautiful wedding day that they spent a ton of money on, but she does not share those pictures and she does not like those pictures. And there's no amount of Photoshop that can fix that. So if you can take that back and be aware of that bride, her feelings, and how it all goes together, I think it's really going to elevate the experience.
Yeah, Tara talked a lot about making people, the bride in this case, feel comfortable in the chair. And, I like the point you're making because Tara is, yes, she's an artist and she could, certainly choose to do her thing, totally do her thing and like create, like we were talking about earlier, this masterpiece. However, yeah, the bride should be able to speak up. What struck me in that story, Melissa, is that whoever that makeup artist was, obviously, well, not only was she more concerned about her own work, kind of her ego, but she didn't set up the experience so that the bride felt comfortable enough to speak up. And I think that's a really great point. Tara talked a lot about that. It is all about the client in the chair. And even that part of it is an experience, right? That she talked about. This is an experience for the bride. They're so vulnerable, right? I mean, I didn't go through this. You did, Melissa, but I imagine the bride, oh my God, has to be feeling so vulnerable in that chair. This is such a big day. So I love that point that you're making.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think it goes always back to ego for all of us. If you can check that, then you really can see all the little moments that we are responsible for.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And what else do you think stood out for you with Tara's interview?
Oh, so one of my favorite quotes that she says is, when you create a great experience for them, that's everything. And it's so simple. And it goes back to, I think, the first point a little bit, but it's her whole sort of lifeblood of her business, even her name, Makeup Therapy. Like, it is about the client. And when we look at that, it feels a little all-encompassing, and it kind of can be, but there's so much that lies in every single little detail of that and all the little touch points. And when you break them down, we really can find a lot of magic in that, and it helps us to retain those repeat clients, right?
Oh, that's great. I was just going to cut it and say that too. I mean, look, we've got to think about this. We've talked before about the whole issue of creating, what we call legacy clients. Debbie Geller is brilliant at that, who I interviewed, and Bryan Rafanelli talked about it. He was on the show, and that's a very important point that Tara is also aware of. I mean, look, much of what we do is absolutely passion, and there's definitely an art to it, but we've got to take care of the business and word of mouth. And actually, Melissa, that was something that Tara mentioned very early in the interview, that she doesn't even advertise, which blew my mind. She doesn't even promote. It's all word of mouth. So she really has that one nailed. And it's all about how she makes her clients feel in the chair. And yes, I like what you said about the title, the name of her company, Makeup Therapy. And she did that on purpose because of how her clients would say how, they come in feeling anxious and vulnerable, as we said earlier, and they end up feeling so comfortable, and it helps them to trust and feel their best. And when they walk out into that crowd or with the photographer, they are loving their look.
Oh, yeah. And it helps them, right? They're in the right headspace, as she says. Something else I just want to mention, like off the cuff, that she said, we want to make sure our style matches their style. I think you were asking her about like what her process was, but that's amazing. She's not forcing her style on brides. Like, the first thing they do is make sure that personality connection is legit,
Yeah, well, and I remember when I asked her, what is her advice to us in the industry to recommend, let's say, the best or the right makeup artist for our particular client. She talked about how there has to be an alignment of style, in the sense that the first step is, look at the shots on Instagram and make sure that the general style of this makeup artist is something that you like. Or I think she mentioned that a lot of clients who like what she does will bring in photos of who they feel is beautiful, because it might be different than who Tara feels is beautiful in terms of the look, and it informs her as to the style of the bride when she does that.
Well, and it brings it back to experience. This is super relevant for our clients and how they hire all their event professionals. They're going to be including these people on the most important day of their life, and their style, their personality, it'll affect you on your wedding day in ways that we can't even predict. We have to make sure that how we show up on the wedding day, what we're wearing, what we look like, how we're feeling, setting our personal lives aside and really being there for them. That all is experience for the bride,
Yeah, Melissa, I'd like you, before we end this session, I would love for you to talk about what you and I were saying before we hit the record button about how at some parties, this blows my mind, but I've seen it too many, many times, and not just with makeup and hair, but photographer and even sometimes a planner, about the style that the team presents. Do you want to say something about that?
Oh, yes. First impression is everything. How you show up on the wedding day, it sets the tone for the entire day. If you are a wedding planner, you need to dress like a wedding planner. If you show up in a slubby dress and flat, lazy shoes, why is anybody going to trust your style or direction? And the same.
I've actually seen that.
Yes.
Actually seen that. It blows my mind. And especially makeup and hair, right? That's all about fashion and style. I mean, right? If you're walking in, all right, so Melissa, you got married. When you're sitting there, getting ready to have your makeup and hair done, and the makeup team, hair team comes in, I mean, what do you want them to look like?
Okay, look. If you are a bride on the wedding day, you are in this beautiful silk robe, something you've put thought into what you're going to wear in the getting ready moments of your day. Your bridal party too. If the hair and makeup team comes in and they are like they just rolled out of bed, or they don't even have makeup on, or they haven't washed their hair this week, why are you going to trust them to touch your hair and your face? We all need to be reflective of that professionalism that we actually are bringing to the day. Everything needs to be perfect. If they're doing hair and makeup, their hair and makeup needs to be on point. So we trust that.
Yeah, great information. Well, that's all we have time for today. In a minute, Melissa's going to explain how you can get even more than this, as we do for every episode of The Next Level. So I want to thank you for listening. And Melissa, if you do want to explain to people how they can get so much more on each of these Next Level episodes that we do.
Yes. So we've been sending out emails with the full notes. This is just a little bit. The full takeaways are getting sent out. You can sign up for our email list on our website, theweddingbiz.com. There's also a link within our Instagram links at weddingbizshow. Hit either of those, put your email in, we'll send you the full guide.
Yes, and also, if you can subscribe as well to the podcast, you'll get automatic notifications. And again, we want to remind you, the website is theweddingbiz.com. Our social media handles are at weddingbizshow. And please, if you would like to review the show, we would love that. If you're enjoying this, let everyone else know wherever you get your podcast from, and share with your colleagues and friends. What else, Melissa?
I want to see some DMs and comments on our Instagram. I want to see what you guys are doing. I want to hear conversation. I want to know if you're going to be at Engage so we can all meet up and say hi.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So say it again. What is the best way for them to let us know?
Oh, just send me a DM on our Instagram. It's at Wedding Biz Show.
Okay, and if Melissa and I have time, we're getting there early, a couple days early. We got some interviews to do. We got a lot of really cool stuff going on with potential partnerships, a lot going on. However, if we can block out some time, we would love to meet you, our listener. And so from signing up with the mailing list and subscribing, all of that stuff, Melissa will let you know if we can have some time and exactly when and where to get together so that we can meet you, and would love to hear your ideas, suggestions. We really want you to be included in what we're giving you down the pike. Also, I want to mention that upcoming, sometime in the next couple of months, we've got so many incredible episodes to give you, including Mindy Weiss, also Mark Held of Mark's Garden. There's just too many to mention. So Keep tuning in, and thanks again for listening.